Homelessness is at a record high and is continuing to increase, and the government has no plan. The UK has a housing emergency, and yet nobody's acting on this emergency. It's really unbelievable. The charity Shelter has produced a new report setting out the huge scale of homelessness in England in 2023. The most visible homeless people are so-called rough sleepers, people who are sleeping on the street with no accommodation whatsoever. There's around 3,000 rough sleepers in the UK on any one night. However, by far the biggest category of homeless people are those in temporary accommodation. Shelter estimates that there are around 310,000 on any given night in 2023. This means that 1 in every 182 people in the UK is homeless. Within these figures, 140,000 are children. Wow, that really hits me. 140,000 children without a home. That's a sad blight on one of the supposedly richest economies in the world. These figures actually underestimate the number of people that are homeless in the UK. Shelter points out that there are various forms of hidden or unofficial homelessness. This includes overcrowded households or people that are sofa surfing. Wider definitions of homelessness would mean that the numbers are significantly higher. This table shows the 10 local authorities with the highest rates of homelessness. In Newham, 1 in 20 people are homeless. In Westminster, 1 in 25 people. For comparison, Birmingham and Manchester both have 1 in 79 people homeless. There is a reason why the worst areas are all in the London region. This is because rents are so high. So even for people who are working on low income and receiving universal credit, private rented property is completely unaffordable. The experience of people living in temporary accommodation is dire. People are housed in grotty hostels, B&Bs and cramped bedsits with mouldy walls, mice, bed bugs. If you Google it, there's loads of evidence on the experience of how people are living in dangerous slum-like conditions. For example, a Shelter report earlier this year reported on the experience of those living in temporary accommodation. 3/4 of households live in poor conditions. 1 in 5 with a safety hazard such as faulty wiring or fire risks. More than 2/3 of people have inadequate access to basic facilities such as cooking or laundry facilities. More than 1 in 3 of parents say their children don't have their own bed. Don't have their own bed. That's incredible. These are only a few examples of the many issues that are reported from the lived experience of being in temporary accommodation. So why has this emergency occurred? We have a massive shortage of affordable homes in the UK. This is exacerbated by a significant decrease in social housing since the 1990s and increased reliance on the private rented sector. In addition, many people have job insecurity with low-paid, temporary or 0 hours contracts, making it just impossible to pay private rents. You can add to this welfare reforms and benefit cuts and cuts in local government funding. And all of this has been made a lot worse by the cost of living crisis. Yet what is the government doing? This week, the Prime Minister has vowed to control spending to pave the ground for tax cuts next year. Does he not know this crisis is happening? Or is he just happy to overlook it as long as he can get re-elected? I genuinely do not know how these people can sleep while this is happening on their watch. So we have a simple choice as a country. Do we want to ensure that every person living in the UK has a decent, safe and secure place to live? We used to be a country that said yes to this question. Look at this chart of houses built in the UK since 1923. In the post-war period, we can see that house building increased dramatically. The red area shows private homes and the grey area social housing. Social housing means properties that are offered at rents that are affordable for low-income tenants and which are allocated on the basis of need. Look at what's happened to social housing in the grey area. The decades following the Second World War was prosperous in the UK. Is it a coincidence that affordable social housing was dramatically increased and available to all that basically needed it? The dotted line shows what's happened to house prices. This is simply a matter of supply. In the 1960s, 3 million homes were built. In the 2010s, only 1.3 million homes were built. So prices have gone through the roof. Part of this is caused by restrictive planning restrictions. Given that the main problem is focused on London, perhaps we need to accept that we have to compromise on the green belt and let London expand. If London could be extended in all directions, this could open up a lot of new land to build houses. Of course, NIMBYism is a problem here, not in my backyard. Local opposition to developments can make planning permission difficult and lead to more restrictions being placed on new house building. But this is just selfish, frankly. We're in more than a housing crisis, it's a housing emergency, and we have to do something about it. We need a massive government programme of house building. It seems that too much responsibility is put on local authorities. This is one of the reasons that local authorities are starting to go bankrupt. We need a government-led initiative to sort this problem out. This will not only deal with the problem of homelessness, it'll also create a more secure, happier workforce. Many of these homeless people do have jobs, but their lives are full of insecurity and stress. Ensuring that everyone lives in a decent home will actually significantly benefit the economy. It's an investment well worth making. Despite this being a crisis, the profile of this issue as a news item is very low. Look at the news item on the BBC website yesterday following the shelter report. It's way down the page. It's not exactly reporting a national emergency. I can't believe that the emergency isn't being treated with a higher priority. It's a national disgrace and a tragedy that so many people have to live in unacceptable accommodation. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please consider liking or subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.